Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. So earlier this week, there were shockwaves in Washington because President Trump fired his Defense Secretary, Mike Esper. This was immediately followed by firings at the top of the Pentagon and mass resignations also at the top of the Pentagon. And the new acting Defense Secretary, Chris Miller, we don't really know that much about, but he hired as his chief advisor someone we do know quite a lot about, Colonel Douglas McGregor, who has frequently appeared on Tucker Carlson and is an advocate for immediate US withdrawal from Afghanistan and from Syria. These changes have caused shockwaves among the media, who have, of course, taken unrestrainedly the side of the generals, who are complaining bitterly off the record that the president wants to withdraw from Afghanistan, and they, in their judgment, believe that this would be a rash thing to do, a terrible mistake, because the conditions on the ground simply don't warrant withdrawal from Afghanistan. They forget, of course, that he is the elected president and that there is an agreement in place between the United States government and the Taliban to implement withdrawal by the beginning of next year. So what we have now is the generals openly talking to the media and in defiance of the president whom they're supposed to serve because they don't agree with his policy. And the media are happily relaying these complaints and clearly taking their side. One nice tidbit from an article that appeared in Politico is that the reporter said this withdrawal from Afghanistan would hamper President-elect Biden's policy of maintaining US forces in Afghanistan. You know, we had always been led to believe we have one president at a time, and it really doesn't matter what President-elect Biden, if that's what we want to call him, wants to do. The current president is Donald Trump. Peter,
I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's insurrection, okay? I mean, we have a clear separation of powers. I mean, Donald Trump is still the legal president of the United States. And on top of it, he ran in 2016 to end these ridiculous wars. And he has been fighting tooth and nail every single month of his administration to have his policy put into effect. And he has been thwarted every step of the way. And the media has been complying along with what the generals want. I mean, really, liberal media with the generals. You wouldn't have said that even a few years ago, all right? And what I find really remarkable, the conditions aren't right. Well, when have the conditions been right for the last 19 years, okay? I mean, the thing is, the bottom line for me is, number one, this is just such a cheap shot at President Trump. And again, as I keep stressing, as I have during the entire Trump era, this kind of reporting degrades the institutional vitality of like the Pentagon, for example. We saw it with the DOJ. We saw it with congressional committees. We've seen it all across the board, of course, the media here. So, I mean, there's no self-reflection here. The president can do what he wants. All these generals and undersecretaries, they serve at his pleasure, okay? And so what? And Esper can go back being a lobbyist for the arms dealers where he came from. Okay, and that's a huge criticism of Trump. He hired these people, and one of the biggest downsides of his presidency has been the HR. He's hired awful people, okay? So, and another thing in the Political article that, even though it's not top of mind, is that some anonymous sources are worried that Trump is going to use the military in a post-election action. What are you talking about? Okay, this is just scaremongering. Go ahead, Ciara.
This has been the overriding narrative that because this is also, it's just not something new. Trump always has tried to surround himself with loyalists. Trump loyalist is not a new element to the Trump presidency. So I, for one, was not shocked by this last minute rearrangement. And I think that the fear of Trump loyalists giving him some kind of power to impose some kind of military coup, which I think is ridiculous, overshadowing the benefits of the positive outcome, which would be withdrawing troops from Afghanistan by Christmas. This is something good. This is something.
Yeah, I mean, but see, Ciara, the interest that this is, see, they wanted to see it kills two birds with one stone. You have the foreign policy blob ends up winning. Okay, they were at the end of the day they were stronger than the president. But this is also another way to kick Trump in the ass as he's going out the door here. Okay, it is intentional humiliation, but we have to go back. Fine, I've said probably in every single video we've made, I don't care if you like or dislike Donald Trump. He is the president of the United States. That's not the way underlings should treat the president in public or semi-public or anonymously. Okay,
right. And,
so
no, you're right, and it's quite obvious what the strategy of Esper and others was, which is we'll just protract it, slow walk this, and then we're into January, and then we have a new president, and this president has promised to keep the troops in Afghanistan in perpetuity. No particular reason, given, and Trump, has saw through that and has now decided to act. Of course, you're absolutely right, Peter. He should have done this years ago. I mean, it was ridiculous.
But George, just to hold up on one point, Biden has said that he is for withdrawing troops, though he wants to keep a small base.
Well, yes, but that's a small base. I mean, small base, you know what happens with small bases? They don't stay small for very long. The moment you leave any troops there, that just simply gathers. It just gets bigger in no time at all. You either withdraw or you don't withdraw. The agreement that was signed with the Taliban earlier this year specified explicitly the United States would withdraw completely, totally, unconditionally. And
they limited it, George, by May. They said that by May there will be 0 troops.
Right, but no will maintain a presence there afterwards.
Yeah.
And the only condition that was specified, the only condition that the Taliban had to meet was that they would not attack US troops and that they would not sponsor Islamic terrorists that would target the United States. No one has claimed that the Taliban has violated any of these conditions. What people like these generals saying, oh, the conditions on the ground aren't right because there's still a lot of violence, that was not a condition. That wasn't the condition for US withdrawal. The only one was, are you attacking US forces? Not whether, are you still conducting a war against the Afghan government?
Yeah.
And also the issue is that the Afghan government, sponsored by the United States and Kabul, they want the U.S. to stay in perpetuity, okay? Because it is a gigantic, humongous grift, okay? And everybody gets paid, okay? Except for, it's unpopular among the American voters, and it's a total waste. It's a boondoggle. It's a total waste of money. But the military, remember the revolving door? Well, they leave the military and then they work for these arms companies or supplying companies, logistic companies, and they just keep the war churning on. And you know what? Trump's trying to prove a point here, and all the power to him. Okay, he is still president, and damn it, you will follow my orders, and I will keep firing people until it's done. Okay, and let the media, cry all they want. Okay, this is going to show that Trump was determined to keep his promise, because you know what, folks, he may be back, all right, and he's going to be able to say, against all odds, I pulled it off.
Yeah. So it's also not a new promise, because Obama also pitched pulling out troops from Iraq and Afghanistan when he was first elected. That was his big pitch as well. And Trump has continued to pitch that, even though currently there's 8,500 troops in Afghanistan, which is the same.
There is a difference. There is a difference here, is that Obama has just simply changed his mind. Obama he caved for them in a heartbeat, like he did for financial and interest, the bankers, everybody else. But in this case, he has tried very, very hard to do it, and he keeps getting pushed back. So there's a very big difference.
No, my point is just
it's much worse than that in the case of Obama. Obama did not do anything in Iraq. He continued implementing the policy that the Bush administration had initiated, which is withdrawal from Iraq. And in fact, Obama tried to keep US troops in Iraq. The only reason that that policy failed because the Iraqi government refused to sign the standards SOFA agreements, which is that US troops would enjoy complete immunity from prosecution in Iraq. And once the Iraqi government refused to grant this immunity, then he said, okay, we'll continue with the Bush policy of withdrawal. And then he returned to Iraq. He then returned, after withdrawing, he returned to Iraq. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, Obama never said that he was going to withdraw from Afghanistan. He always said he supported the Afghan war. He said that, oh, that's a good war, as opposed to the stupid war, which was Iraq. And so, in fact, he promised to actually accelerate the war in Afghanistan, and he did indeed maintain that. There was a surge in Afghanistan under Obama.
So the important thing here is that they want to deny Trump a policy victory. Okay, they're very determined to do that, and it's a very sad foreboding because it's sending a message. I mean, if you're duly elected or unduly elected president, you're not going to have a whole lot of say in what's going to happen in that part of the world.
Yeah. I would also say though, in regards the advisor, this Colonel Douglas McGregor, as Miller's new advisor, and like as we both know, he's a Fox regular, and he does have some very controversial opinions about Muslims, immigration. He called for martial law at the Mexican border. I remember. But
what's controversial about that?
What's
controversial about that?
He does have very good opinions about ending the war in both Afghanistan and in Syria as well.
But Ciara, keep in mind, because he does buck the trend, and he's very vocal and he's very eloquent and he's very likable, okay? But because he has controversial views, he's smeared all the time in the media. He's an anti-Semite, he is a Holocaust denier. They throw everything at McGregor because he can speak well to the American people, and they say, yeah, that's right, that makes perfect sense to me. They don't like that because he is a conduit, a direct conduit through Fox to a public that is skeptical of these wars in the first place, and he just knows how to amplify it. I pat him on the back. I really, just because he has controversial views doesn't mean he's wrong.
No, but this is what I'm saying. Most of the conflict and the backlash against appointing him as director is looking at the negative sides that he has shown in regards to.
I don't think so. I think that it's about Trump's policy. I think there has been ferocious resistance every time Trump has proposed withdrawing U.S. forces from anywhere. I mean, he proposed withdrawing from Syria, and then we had the whole horror show about what the Kurds. And then, of course, Afghanistan, the moment he signs that agreement with the Taliban, we hear about the Russian bounties, where Trump is implementing the Putin plan to withdraw American forces. So, and look, even when he says, I'm going to withdraw 12,000 troops from Germany, 75 years after the end of World War II, even that causes absolute outrage and hair on fire in the media. So McGregor is just an excuse, and you have to keep in mind who is going after McGregor. McGregor does not actually follow Trump's line because he actually thinks that the United States should pursue a policy of rapprochement with Iran. He thinks it's absolutely crazy to demonize Iran. He thinks that Iran should be is a more reliable ally for the United States than Saudi Arabia is. So he's not in any way a follower of Trump. I mean, he clearly disagrees with Trump's policy on that.
And George, you know, when you look at Syria, I mean, it's just not, we shouldn't be in Syria. It's much more complex than that. He says the U.S. should get out and let them out, let the rest of them fight over it and figure it out. Why does the United States have to be there to figure it out? Let them figure it out, because when we leave, they will figure it out. See, I mean, he's that kind of, he's not, it's just not like, I'm against foreign wars. I mean, he's very specific in what he's against, okay? And he said, you know, if you get out of Syria and we don't give Israel carte blanche, you know, then everyone's gonna have to sit down at the table and talk. And that's a good thing. See, that's a strategic thinker, okay? And that's why they hate McGregor and will slur him with everything in the book.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what the controversial view is. Well, his point is just simply, if you're going to have a US military, then the military should be stationed at the border. I mean, that's where you're supposed to guarantee, that should be their job, to guarantee security at the US border, not guarantee security at the Syrian border.
Yeah. I mean, when that was brought up, when Trump wanted to pull out, that, I mean, and that's what McGregor said. I'm pretty sure it was on Tucker Carlson, and said, our border is open, but Syria's is closed. So what's this mean?
Yeah, exactly. But in just regards in the general backlash against it, I agree with you both that if Trump can end this term of presidency by withdrawing all troops in Afghanistan by Christmas, this is an unbelievable feat. It's a great thing.
I agree. And that would also be a platform that he will run on in 2024, because he will have achieved that. That will be his accomplishment. He really doesn't want Biden to have this kind of on his side. Hey, I did it. I withdrew from Afghanistan. Kudos to me. I mean, he doesn't want Biden to go.
And it's my vaccine. It's not Joe's vaccine.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Exactly.
Actually, just kind of I want to end on kind of a sidebar, which I think is kind of interesting. And I was actually going to message you both about it. I don't know if you noticed yesterday, Tucker Carlson had Jimmy Dore on again.
I saw that. Yeah.
And you know why, George? Because Tucker knows that Trump watches his program. He knows that, okay? And what he did, and I think Tucker is really clever about this, is that Trump knows Tucker's opinions about foreign wars. For the entire time Tucker's been on air on his own program. So what did he do? He brought Jimmy Dore in, a far left progressive, I mean, really far left progressive, and and I don't know if you noticed it, George, but Jimmy knew he was talking to Donald Trump, eye to eye, the way he talked to him. Right. And it was a brilliant gambit. And it's basically telling Trump, has said, people are with you on this. Tucker Carlson, an arch conservative, Jimmy Dore, a radical left-wing progressive. You couldn't get more far apart, and they're both saying the same thing to you, Mr. President.
Right.
It's really brilliant.
Yes. No question. I mean, that Jimmy Dore was explicitly addressing. He wasn't even talking to Tucker Carlson. I mean, Tucker just simply sat there watching, and he was explicitly addressing, Mr. President, do this. This will be your legacy. You should have done it 4 years ago. You haven't done it. It's still not too late.
It's not too late.
Really?
Yeah, I think we should end on the sentiment that it's hopefully not too late, and hopefully it's something that we see being done.
Yep.
Thanks very much for listening, guys. George, do you want to finish off the segment?
So finish this off. Yes. So this is, as you say, Ciara, it's not too late, and this will be Trump's lasting legacy. If he can do the Syria thing, all the better. And something we'll discuss in future shows, if he can actually get the FBI and the CIA to declassify millions of documents, that would be a wonderful legacy. Oh, and the pardon for Julian Assange and Edward Snowden.
Well, George, just to give you some confidence, I still believe in the tooth fairy, but okay.
All right. So, but we will be following this with our customary laser-like focus. So remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.